I want to welcome you to the Pro Mindset Podcast. The Pro Mindset Podcast is all about diving into the headspace that results in championship performance. High-performing athletes, winners, have this mental flow and have a positive headspace for their performances and success. Join me, Craig Domann, sports attorney and NFL agent, on this podcast. I will interview pro athletes, college athletes, football coaches, and sports personalities. Together, we can discover how you can get in the flow and have your own pro mindset.
Craig, thank you. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to jump into the conversation.
Tell the audience exactly what you do.
Opendorse is an athlete marketing platform that helps athletes share content on social media. More than 10,000 athletes around the world use our software every day to receive photos, videos, gifts from their partners, the team they play for, the league they play in, a brand they work with. They will deliver them media content to share directly on their social channels, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, of athletes. So we are behind the scenes. If you ever scroll through Twitter or Facebook or Instagram and you see an athlete that shared a high quality photo or video, there's a good chance that Opendorse, our software, was behind the scenes automating the entire process of getting that content to the athlete and into their social media channel. So we've been doing this since 2012. We got a team of 40 at Opendorse, and our headquarters are in Lincoln, Nebraska.
And you're based out of New York City at the moment. Is that fair?
Yep, I'm up in New York. We've got 40 in total, 38 in Nebraska, and 2 in New York as we expand our presence on the Northeast coast.
Gotcha. Well, I've had personal experience as an agent working with your company with some of our athletes, and the best way to describe it is your company marries athletes to brands and makes it seamless, and the athletes love it because they don't have to do too much except put, like text back yes or approve
Yep.
and look in their account to make sure the money showed up.
Yeah, that's right. So on the professional athlete side, it's been, for the last 7 years, really helping find the right fit between a brand and an athlete and teaming them up to share a piece of sponsored content on social media. So yeah, it's the most simple way on the pro athlete side. A lot of these guys know Opendorse is a company that pays them to tweet, right? You get paid to tweet about Pepsi or Tide or Courtyard Marriott or Coca-Cola. Some of these brands, Opendorse is behind the scenes making all of that a seamless process for the athletes and the agent. So there's a lot of different ways that people use our software technology, but at the end of the day, it's about that athletes have tremendous amount of influence on social media. What they say matters, and our job is to help people that want to tap into those athletes and their social media channels have the easiest way to get a hold of them and get the right message out.
Well, Blake, I've heard some of this before, but our audience hasn't. So why don't you explain the impact and the reach that professional athletes have when the engagement their followers have with them compared to the engagement and the impact that Pepsi might be able to make if they just do it through their own Twitter account?
Yeah, for sure. Well, one of the first things is the reach. They're just on the other side of Opendorse, there's 1.5 billion total social media followers across the 10,000 athletes that use our software. And if you add up the social media following of every team, league, athletic department, and media company that covers sports in the U.S., it's less than 1 billion, right? So collectively, athletes have a much larger audience than brands, but also the engagement rate. So the average engagement rate for an athlete can be somewhere around 6%. And that's what percentage of an athlete's social media followers will actually like, comment, retweet on a piece of content that they've posted, right? So that's engagement rate. They're at about 6%. The average for a pro sports team, and this is the data I'll share with you, Craig, but the brands are different. They're probably around the same point. But for an athlete, it's 6% engagement rate. For a team, it's 0.3% engagement rate. So you're talking about a 20 times higher engagement when an athlete shares a piece of content than when a brand shares a piece of content on social media. And that's the difference that really we have built our business around, is that when athletes say the right thing at the right place at the right time, it feels like magic. It can generate real results for everyone involved, the athletes, their fans, and the brand that they've partnered with.
Okay, so Blake, let's talk about the athlete that might be in college today, maybe in high school today, and he or she has an aspiration of being involved with your group so that they can get paid for endorsing companies that they like products and services for. How do they position themselves? Let's just take it's a senior in college, and he can't take anything now, but soon to be he'll be going through the draft if he's a football player. How does he position himself to increase perhaps his following, the authenticity of his postings, the cleanliness and the purity of what he posts? What is your let's say it's your brother, your son, and he's what you know. What recommendation? What steps would you say he should take?
Well, I think the very first thing that I would ask an athlete that's looking to build a social media following is why. Like, what is their goal? What is ultimately, how would they like to be remembered? How can they leverage their time as an athlete to build something of value? But ultimately, if they do have a social media presence, like, why are they building it? Why does it matter to them to have followers? So for some, it's to make money. For others, it's to make an impact. For others, it's to draw attention to something they care about, right? So it's really starting with why, and then it's about the who follows them, right? So and what type of audience do they want to have, or what type of audience do they have, and understanding that if they can share the right message with that audience, they're going to generate engagement, and if they're going to generate engagement, they're going to get more followers, so they're going to start to build their audience. And so it really boils down to is understanding why you're investing in building an audience and who follows you. And if you can match those two up and you can share the right content, you can see your audience grow. And the other part of this is activity. Social media is a weird place where, and the combination of athletes where they are proud of their accomplishments, but they're part of a team most often, and that makes them more humble in nature, where the average athlete shares 6 pieces of content on social media per month, right? And right. the average sports team will share 30 pieces of content a day on social media, right? So sports fans crave content at a 20 times higher rate than from athletes than they do teams, yet athletes are sharing 1% the amount of content that teams do. So it's about why you're doing this, who follows you, and then how often you're actually sharing the right content with them. So posting more often may be counter to the humble nature of most athletes, but it will allow them to generate more engagement and build that audience faster.
Okay, so I'm going to regurgitate back to you what I heard. One is the why. 2 is more often. And 3 is the right content, the key word there being right. So help us understand what right means.
Well, I would say that anyone listening is most likely used their phone to scroll through a social media feed in the last hour. And when they're scrolling through that...
Maybe in the last 5 minutes.
That's right. They're probably doing it right now. But
exactly.
As you're scrolling through your social media feed, it's the faces in your feed that slow your scroll. It's the people that you're connected with that really grab your attention, right? And so the more visual content that athletes can share, it provides their audience this feeling like they're a fly on the wall, right? So fly on the wall type content is something that athletes at the highest level of professional sports are really diving into, and that's the behind the scenes of their workouts. It's their drive to the golf course. It's the hanging out with the family, like that fly in the wall type content gives the fan this glimpse into the athlete's life that maybe they don't see on the cameras. But there's also the highlights, right? So a sports fan is naturally tuned in to wanting to see the top moments of every game. And for an entire sports team, there's maybe 5 highlight plays per game. But if you break it down, like each athlete, if you're a fan of an individual athlete, that athlete has their own 5 highlights from each game. And they're probably not the same as the team, right? So it's a balance of fly-on-the-wall content that gives a glimpse of your life that they can't find anywhere else, but also their own curated highlights of what moments matter to the athlete. And so we are, behind the scenes looking at athletes and seeing more of both. They're sharing more highlights from their time on the field and more behind the scenes access that their fans crave. So the combination of those is really the right type of content to grab attention and start to build an audience that lasts a lifetime.
Outstanding. I can honestly tell you I have a very clear understanding of how to utilize social media right now that I didn't have before we had this conversation, because I'm one of those older guys that hasn't embraced social media like I probably should, even though I'm in an industry that's very sexy and a lot of people want to know about it. But you've given me a very, very good perspective so that I can communicate with my clients as well. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. If somebody was a fly on the wall in your boardroom, when you guys are having your Opendorse corporate meetings, what can you draw from your experiences playing college football and just playing sports in general that show up in your company?
Well, the first one they'll notice is I've still got one of my teammates with me. So I got Adi Kunalic is my co-founder of Opendorse, and he and I were roommates day one at Nebraska and in the dorms there on campus. And so I came to Nebraska in 2007 to play linebacker. Adi came from Texas to be a kicker at Nebraska. So both part of that scholarship class in 2007. And, that says something right there, is that, when you find a teammate that is a great balance of yours, but also that you've been through some things together, it can really bond you, right? And so Adi and I both coming in day one and going through the college football experience together forms a level of trust that is really hard to find in any corporate boardroom, and it's rooted in real moments of victory and moments of defeat. And sports has that unique ability to tie a lot of people together, whether you're on the field and you're sweating, alongside your brother, or you're in the stands and you witness this moment from 10 rows up. Everyone feels like they're a part of that. So I would say the first thing you'd notice is that, hell, these guys are still playing the game together, right? We're just playing a different game, but we work our tails off. And yeah, there's a part of that sticks with you, right? That bond that's formed on the field.
No question.
The other part is probably the discipline that is required to sustain or build a business is something that you learn early on in your life as an athlete, that to be the best, you got to work hard. You got to work better than the best, or understand where they're excelling and then create a plan and follow it. Stay disciplined. And I think that's been something that Adi and I, you don't win every game in business. You sure as hell, not every board meeting's fun, Craig. I'll tell you that.
No doubt.
But you got to get better every board meeting, and you got to be disciplined to commit yourself to something and see it through. So I think that sports teaches all of us that. Again, whether you are on the field or in the stands, I think there's something unique about the moments in sports that bring us together, but also give us the foundation for building life beyond sports. So once the career is over, you can really take a lot of those lessons learned and bring them to the business world or whatever world you find yourself in.
No doubt about it. And I also think that if you guys, being former roommates and teammates and friends, and you had another business together before you had Opendorse, you have to have a high level of belief in yourself as well as in each other and in your mission. And I think that you also have to have a lot of passion. And all these things are things that you have to have in sports if you want to play at the elite level. Everybody thinks it's about talent. There's a threshold of talent you have to play in the NFL based upon the position that you play. But after that, once you got that, it's other things that define you. Fair?
No, absolutely right. I think that there's a commitment to wanting to be the best or outworking those around you or my time in Nebraska, I was just, where this might sound all too familiar to you, but no, I was kind of a skinny white linebacker when I came in, and I added about 30 pounds, but I still was a skinny white linebacker when I left. And there were guys that were faster, stronger than I, but I got a chance to play as a true freshman. I started as a sophomore at linebacker, and I started as a junior at linebacker. And it wasn't because I was the biggest, strongest, fastest guy in the field. It's because I cared. I stayed after and watched film for an hour after practice, after watching it for several hours before, and I studied the playbook, and I studied the tendencies, and I just felt that there was I had to find my edge, right? And every athlete has an edge, and they have an opportunity to capitalize on it, double down on it, rather than trying to focus on making my weaknesses a little less weak. I really focus on making my strengths even stronger. I was big into academics, and I knew that if I could predict the play or know the potential outcome of every snap, then I could be in a position faster, right? And I think that's where I would credit if I had some success in Nebraska, and that's all to anyone else to decide, then I would credit my success to that, which is finding the edge and focusing on the strengths and really doubling down on that.
Well, I think when you play college football, you have to give your coach a reason to put you on the field. And if you're, good is the enemy of great. If you're pretty good at everything, let's say you're a linebacker, you're a pretty good tackler, pretty good cover guy, pretty good pass rusher, blitzer, you'll never play because it's such a situational game that when it's, nickel package, you're on the sidelines because they want a safety in the game playing linebacker that can cover. Or if it's, a package where they're going to have the linebacker blitz, they're going to put the guy in that can blitz. And so one of the things I think that correlates to business is you guys are number one of very few people in your space in business. Fair?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is something we've willed into existence, I'd say, Craig. And the Domann family with, Teddy and yourself have been believers since the early days. But when we first started talking about Opendorse and saying all we are going to do is help athletes share content on social media, not appearances, no autograph signings, no long-term endorsement deals. It was just going to be posts on social media. A lot of wide eyes and say, well, good luck with that, right? But it was one of those things that said, we have a chance to be the best in the world at this, and the first in the world to say this is all we do. And there was those early years when people were saying, well, I don't know if it's going to be a big enough opportunity or where's the market going. And looking back now, I don't know, other than just pure belief and confidence that this matters and will matter. I mean, that's what got us through to this point where now this is a legitimate industry. And there are a couple copycats out there in the market that are, making their own paths and ways and, learning from us. And so it's become a growing part of the market. So yeah, by specializing, right? I didn't try and kick, and Adi did not try and play linebacker. We knew what we were there to do when we played our position, and I think that's been a same outcome for our business. By focusing on one thing and trying to be the best in the world at it, I'm thankful to say that we're the first in the market and the market leader in what we do, and that's something that we are excited to see continue to grow.
Not too many people walking the face of the planet can say that they started a company that is the best in the space and the first in their space. So that's a wild compliment for you. Okay, so Blake, with lots of access to athletes and to agents, and played with guys that played in the pros, perhaps Prince or somebody like that, I want you to think of one of your uber successful athletes that more than just as a business person, and tell the audience what you think is the reason they are the elite in perhaps the NFL.
Yeah. So I had the fortune to play with Ndamukong Suh, and still had the fortune to call him a friend. And Ndamukong, from the moment I met him, was focused. You know, he carries a presence about him as an athlete, just as an individual, that he knows where he wants to be and where he's going, and that helps determine all of his actions. And it may not be the most popular action. He wasn't trying to win a popularity contest. He's trying to win a football game, right? And the weight room can be a place where there's a lot of camaraderie and hoorah and jokes and laughs, but not near Ndamukong. Ndamukong is heads down, right? This is a place to work, get better, so you can be the best, right? But then when it moved into school, and Ndamukong, wanted to be the best as well. He's got a desire to be a billionaire. I mean, like, he's outspoken about that. And so every dollar that he's earning, he's finding ways to get more out of it, right? So I think it's almost that mindset, just witnessing that and seeing him continue to make an impact in the NFL 10 years after he was, fourth in the Heisman voting back in 2009. And it's rewarding to see. But it's also one of those things that I'm thankful he was on my team,
Oh, I saw him kill some people in college.
Yeah, and I was thankful. And Craig, I tell you this is the secret. Nobody talks about it, but I'll tell you, is that I was so damn good, Craig. They had to double team me every play, and so Ndamukong was just running free.
Yeah.
That is not true. He was, my goodness, in the huddle, and his eyes were locked in and ready to roll. And I think that type of focus and mentality will keep you around. But he's doing it with a purpose, and he's not. Interesting enough, I don't think he's there to make friends. He's there to make an impact, right, on his life and his teammates. And you respect it. Once you understand it, you respect it, and I think that's helped him in his career.
Well, he's had a hell of a career. He's made a lot of money. I think he's played on 3 teams now. And almost every good player that plays in the NFL plays on 3 or 4 teams before they're done. Tom Brady may be the exception, but, Peyton Manning played on 2. Most of these guys, Jerry Rice played on like 4 or 5. So it's, he's getting an opportunity to make an impact in different organizations. And it's funny how the NFL works, because once you hit the big 3-0, they're waiting for the wheels to fall off. And so nobody wants to sign guys to long-term mega deals, but there are some players that just keep playing. And, Adam Vinatieri obviously plays kicker, but, he's 46 and still going. And so I think that with Ndamukong's attitude, if he doesn't lose his hunger, he might surprise people and play a lot longer than they even expected him to play.
Yeah, I would say so. He's one that he gets picked on, because of the way he plays the game so aggressively. That he's a target of those shots they don't catch on camera. So he's definitely one that he'll defy the odds as each year that he continues to play the game. But he's doing it with the purpose, and I think that's the other part of this. Is you talk about once these guys get to 30, and 30 is such a young age in any career, right? And the things that would be the end of a career for most NFL players, that's the rest of your life. I mean, you got 35 plus years to be a professional in something else, right? And you talk about this world of social media, like building an audience, and why that matters is that before social media, your influence as an individual, as an athlete, really was tied directly to your athletic ability and your athletic influence, right? And the moment that your career starts to fade into retirement is the moment that you spend less time at the podium in front of the press. You get less time to go out into the community and do speaking engagements and appearances, and you start to really just become the guy at the tail end of your career. And so as athletic success rises, your influence rises, and athletic success falls, your influence falls. But what social media has done is given every athlete this ability, the Ndamukongs and the Blake Lawrences and the Prince Amukamaras and Adi Kunalic and, those types of folks that use this window of opportunity that as their athletic success is rising, they're using that time to build an audience that stays with them and continues to grow once their athletic success starts to fall, right? So you can imagine a chart, and up and to the right is this influence and an audience that grows and grows and grows. And today's athletes are at a complete advantage because they're able to capture attention when all the lights are on them, build an audience that once the lights turn off, that audience is still there. They're following them. They care about what they say. And I think that you combine the conversation we had earlier about what athletes, why they're doing this and why this matters to them with the singular focus of someone like Ndamukong and saying, like, when you use the time on the field as a way to catapult the next phase of your life, that's what I see is the right mindset in building and capitalizing on what sports does for each athlete that's able to grace the field in whatever level of competition. It gives them the opportunity to build into something bigger.
Before social media came around, the has-beens, the Hall of Famers, they were brought to the forefront every year before Super Bowl. And they'd go through, Joe Montana's accomplishments, Roger Staubach. It didn't matter who it was. And then you have a little bit of that when there's a Ring of Honor ceremony at a particular club. Okay, let's just take the Chiefs. They're doing a Ring of Honor. They're inducting, let's say, Tony Gonzalez, and all the guys come back. And there's a little bit of notoriety for those athletes there. But the other 49 weeks out of the year, it's crickets.
Yeah.
And I think what social media has enabled these athletes to do through a lot of what you do is have a legacy and have a revenue stream for as long as they choose to. As long as they choose to keep a clean image off the field, as long as they perhaps maybe modify their why so that it's, consistent and authentic with who they are now. And as long as they post consistent content that's interesting to the fans. And if they do those things, they can continue to make a living almost, utilizing a company like yours.
Yeah. No, that's exactly as we talk about it, right? There's this era of athletes, they should never stop being in front of their fans and followers because they're all tracking them, right? They're all using social media to stay on top of it, and that influence matters, right? We got athletes that, like Eric Crouch, who gets paid about $1,000 per tweet from local businesses, and he'll bring in several a month, right? But it's because they are tapping into that audience that he's able to build, and he's got less followers than Adrian Martinez, who's the current quarterback in Nebraska, right? So these guys in today's world have an advantage that they came into an era where their audience is already built in, and it's about establishing that. And then the other part is, like, if you're listening and you're thinking, man, I played ball and I'm now, I didn't have social media, but if you jump into it now, you start to share those stories, that behind the scenes, find the wall type thing, reflecting on your career, that matters. But then if you really do want to monetize this, Craig, imagine if you were selling advertising on a television station that plays static 24/7, right? And maybe 1 out of every 6 days it actually plays programming. It's really hard to convince an advertiser that they should buy advertising on a channel that plays static, right? And what I'm saying with that is that if that's why we talk about consistency. So if a brand is going to make a decision that they want to pay an athlete to share anything on social media, the first thing they're going to do is go to their social media channels. And if they haven't shared anything in months, then it's like buying an ad on a static channel. So that's why, like, having a consistent presence is important.
I couldn't have given a better word picture. That sounds so real, because everybody is like their own TV channel. And
Craig, athletes you talk about influencers too. You know, the average influencer, like your mommy blogger or photo blogger, fashion blogger, cook, chef, travel blogger, whoever it is, right? The Instagram models and stars, they're posted 6 times before breakfast. I mean, athletes are commanding and competing against the people that their entire job is to create content, you know, and that's Coca-Cola has to make a choice whether they're going to spend money on a pro athlete that's posting 6 times a month, or a model influencer that will post 6 times that day about Coca-Cola. You know, so that's what the market's like, right? You got to visualize these things like, man, okay, I get it. These athletes have a built-in audience and opportunity, but it's just about leveraging it the right way and who they compete with.
No doubt. Blake, that's really good stuff. I mean, really good stuff. Holy smokes. I mean, if I'm a young woman or young man out there and I have a pretty good following, but I kind of gotten lazy on posting, because I think there's a coolness factor that comes in the social media world to have more people follow you than you follow, and to have more people follow you even though you don't post. And it might be cool, but it may not be profitable, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, it could be a little bit of a misnomer, right? It's just because there are so many places for major advertisers to put their money online, they're going to put it in the place that is the most, I guess, appealing. And in the world of everyone that is an influencer now, and everyone can get paid to post, and how do athletes at least look and feel similar to other options online? And that comes down to having a consistent, active presence. So yeah, you can try and be cool, but cool doesn't pay the bills, right?
Exactly. So Blake, let's go back to Nebraska when you were an active player and you were starting. What was like your biggest failure? What were your biggest challenges?
I would say that my favorite moments for Nebraska were probably far from the field, right? It would be more with the team and the camaraderie, but some of the on-field moments are, we won the 2009 Gator Bowl against Clemson, Dabo Sweeney's first season, Bo Pelini's first season, and knowing where Clemson is now as a program, that win even means a little bit more. But had an interception in that game was a big moment, and that sparked, my junior year went in as a starting linebacker, and 2009 we were the number 1 defense in the country. So all that, we were a heck of a team. But midway through my junior year, I had suffered my 4th concussion in a little over a year, and decided that I should step away from football. And that was probably the hardest thing that I've still ever had to do in my life, because my entire life to that point I've been Blake Lawrence, the football player. And then one day I could never play football again. And so it's a little bit of an identity crisis and trying to understand, where do you go from here? And everyone that's listening and everyone goes through this at least once in their life, and most of us multiple times, where everything that we thought would be and everything we thought we were is gone. And now you got to rediscover yourself or find what's next. And so that is something that every athlete has to go through, a moment where they hang up their cleats, so to say, or quite literally, and find what's next. And for some, it comes a lot faster. For me, I thought about the passion that you mentioned earlier, Craig, that gets you to the black shirt level, on a number 1 defense in the country. If you can keep your passion high, keep your energy high, but maybe shift your focus into something else you care about, then that can lead to success as well. So for me, that was entrepreneurship. Less than a year after being done with football, Adi and I started our first company and built and sold that, and it was on to Opendorse. So yeah, I had dreams of playing at the next level, and had a path to get there potentially as, starting linebacker at Nebraska. But the old noggin didn't behave itself. Concussions came in and hit me early, and decided to step away. But it's turned into what I'd say is a blessing in disguise. Wouldn't be where I am today without having to make that decision. And hopefully others have been inspired to at least understand concussions and their impact and maybe make a move on their own as well.
Well, if you're a mentor for a young man that's an athlete, whether it's high school, college, or even a pro athlete who's struggling with something that puts him in a position or her in a position where it's really in their best interest to move on and leave the sport behind, what would, if you were going to give them the ABCs or the 1, 2, 3s of this is how you change your identity. This is how you move into the future and get rid of the past and be happy about who you are.
Yeah, I would say and that's a good question. And when you think about sports is such a centerpiece, and anyone listening to this absolutely has sports somewhere in their life that had an impact on them. But it's a game. I mean, it is a game. It's a game that can give so much to those that are good to it. They can get a lot out of it, but it is a game. And when it comes to something that, like your brain or your body, I mean, that is not a game. That's your life. And while we enjoy sports and we enjoy playing the game, sometimes it's hard to look beyond that and realize that life is there waiting. But it is just a game. It's okay to step away from a game to focus on life. And so I think about that. Then I also think about what gets you to the highest level of sport, whether it's your high school athlete, you just made varsity, or your college and you just made all conference, you're in the NFL and you're on your way to your first Pro Bowl, or on your way to your first start, whatever it is, like that, to be that damn good at something, you're probably suppressing something else you care about, right? Rarely is a human just centered on one thing. There's usually something to be the best at what you do. You have to suppress something else you might have an interest in. And when you're getting to that point of saying, who am I, what's next, slow down and think, okay, if I wasn't doing this all these years, what would I have been doing? And then the answer to that might surprise you, right? That might say, okay, well, if I could spend as much time as I spent becoming a football player, becoming an entrepreneur, and care about it this much, then dang, I might be able to find some success in this. So I don't know if that's too long-winded or right on for you, Craig, but I think that's what I would say, is that understanding that there's that second place, whatever always got second place in your time and attention, what if it got first? Who would you be? Where would you be? And then sports is amazing, but it is just a game.
Very, very good. Your identity shouldn't be what you do, because what you do is just what you do. It's not who you are. So as a football player, it's what you do. It's not who you are. And there's other things you can do. And your identity is being excellent at what you do. Outworking everybody. Your identity is whatever you want it to be, whatever it manifests in your life. But it just so happened that you put all your time and attention into football, and you at the sacrifice of other things. And what you're suggesting is discover what those other things are.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right.
And take your identity with you. Yeah, that's the mindset. Take your identity with you. And it's no different than whatever you might do next, maybe something different than what you're doing now. You may do this for the next 30 years. You may do something else, but you're going to take your identity with you regardless.
That's right. Well said.
Okay. Well, Blake, I want to thank you very much for being on the show today. And I also want to, how can somebody reach out to you guys? Let's say it's an athlete, or let's say it's a company. Let's say there's a sports-minded person. He's a chief marketing officer for a company. And Opendorse is the name of your company, but give them an opportunity to find you.
Yeah, Opendorse.com, Opendorse, Opendorse.com. And there's right there on the homepage, it says, contact us, right? So if you go to Opendorse.com and say contact us, then we can walk through exactly what we do and how we've helped thousands of brands and tens of thousands of athletes now in the social media space. But Opendorse.com is the best way to get a hold of us. We're also on all those social platforms, as you can imagine. And then you can always get a hold of me, Blake_Lawrence on Twitter. I've been fortunate to build a little bit of an audience there. So reach out anytime. But Craig, I'm also just thankful for you. You know, that's how we've grown our business, by being good to those that have been great to us and throughout the years. So thankful for you and Caddy and your support of this crazy vision that we had, and we've been able to build into something that's I'm proud of, and hopefully you guys are too.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Pro Mindset. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. 5 stars, of course. You can follow us on our website, promindsetpodcast.com, or on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Pro Mindset Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you the next time.